friends, Jewel back again with another super cool astrology video. And I thought we would talk about the Ascendant inconjunct to Pluto today. What's going on when somebody has got this demon of an aspect in their birth chart? So, Pluto is that energy that represents that 8th house within us. 8th house issues. So, death, rebirth, generation, change, force change. Pluto's that force that comes into our life and makes something end so something new and better can take its place. It represents the unconscious, buried things, things we don't want to deal with, repressed things. Taxes are in that house for a reason. We don't want to deal with that, right? It's our crisis. It's our ups and downs. It's our difficulties, our intensity, our deepest desires are found in Pluto and in the 8th house. And the Ascendant is the personality, the persona. It's what we project to the world. It's what you see when you watch my videos. You see Virgo Ascendant. Now, I'm actually pretty comfortable with you guys, so you probably see a lot of my sun as well. You would see my Libra moon if you knew me really well. And if you knew me really, really well, then you would notice it's at the anaretic degree and be like, whoa, she can't make up her mind. Well, you know, the Ascendant, the Sun, and the Moon represent the 3 legs of our personality. And so the Ascendant is huge in astrology because this is really what we put out there. It is the mouth of the chart. It is what we really consciously think as us. The Sun is our identity. It's what we want to be seen as. It's what we identify as. It's our ego and our creativity, our expression. So between the Sun and the Ascendant, you have what somebody projects themselves out into the world as, in a nutshell. So, inconjunctions, and if you have not seen my video on inconjunctions to the Ascendant, you should stop this video now and go see that, and then come back to this. Inconjunctions are always about an adjustment. Because the 2 planets that are in this aspect don't get each other. There's nothing in common. So it's like 2 friends that don't have anything in common at all. They actually probably try to avoid each other because there's just nothing to talk about. They're uncomfortable. There's really no reason for them to come together, but yet they have to for whatever reason if they want success. So, when we have Pluto inconjunct to somebody's ascendant, this is a very complex aspect to understand, to integrate, and to have success with. It is not well understood, and it is not well explained. See, you have the Ascendant, which is the most conscious part of somebody, and does the talking, and we think does the thinking. And then you have Pluto, which is an unconscious part of somebody. And they are in an aspect where they are not connecting. So, depending on where Pluto is, if it's in the 6th, the 7th, or the 8th. This is going to give you more details about how it's going to act out. This really is a more difficult inconjunction if Pluto's falling into the actual 8th house. So, you have to understand that when Pluto is disowned, because people that have this don't own their Pluto. They don't understand the things of Pluto or of their, the 8th house in their life. They don't understand how that can or should or can healthily connect to their persona or their personality. So the Pluto is hidden, at least for a large part of their life, hidden back behind the Ascendant. So the Ascendant is what you can see, And they have taken their power, their Plutonic issues, the things that Pluto represents, and they've hidden it back behind the Ascendant so you can see them talking. And so what you see is whatever sign, sorry, I got a cramp. Oh, ouch. So you can see them talking, but you do not see their Pluto. Now you're going to smell it on them big time, and we'll get to why that is. But they show you one thing, but their Pluto's back behind being something else completely different. So when we have inconjunctions, and especially inconjunctions to the Ascendant, this is a result of really early messages in the early environment that something was not right with whatever planet it is that has been disowned in an inconjunction. In this case, it's Pluto. So something wasn't right with someone's Pluto. Now, it's going to give you more details as to why it wasn't, if that's in the 6th, the 7th, or the 8th. If it's in the 8th, generally there is some kind of control, sexual abuse, or repression. There was an environment where sexuality was strange or dark, or there was some kind of fear in the home. It could be deep power issues as well. If it's in the 7th, then it's things related to other people or the public or relationships in general, where Pluto is in somebody's 7th house in the first place because they don't own their power, they give it away. So this is going to show up more in relationships or obsessional relationships. If Pluto's in the 8th, it's going to show up more in like sexuality, affairs, addictions. If Pluto's down in the 6th, then there's a fear of owning one's own power, a fear of making mistakes, a fear of striking out. There's generally, a message of perfection or imperfection when we had it in the 6th. So people disown their Pluto for different reasons, and you have to look at the way Pluto's aspected too. So the gist of it is, it's hidden back behind. The Ascendant is the mouth. This is the conscious part of us. Pluto is very unconscious. So we think the Ascendant is control, but no. That is actually not what's going on. Because the Pluto within somebody is the powerful, powerful part of us. And the more we repress or suppress something, the more power or control it has over us. And these people are deeply repressed. So if the Sun is with Pluto, this can make it somewhat easier to integrate this because we have a part of the conscious personality with Pluto. And that presents different issues of itself, having the Sun with Pluto. But it can make this actual inconjunction a little bit easier in that case. But people do not display their Pluto issues all the time when it's in an inconjunction. It's not like an opposition or a square, where this is like something that you're going to see come up regularly. It can show up that way in an inconjunctions. Inconjunctions usually will flip and for a certain amount of time. So they'll indulge in it. It's not, so manic depressive like it's an everyday thing. This could be a month, or maybe the Pluto doesn't rear its head in a conscious manner, or make the person do something, for several years at a time. That's just the nature of inconjunctions. They're highly unpredictable. And you can generally see how somebody is going to be more prone to using this inconjunction when you look at the entire chart. But they can act out, people with this inconjunction, in very irrational ways. They can have hidden addictions, hidden sexual addictions, affairs, fetishes, obsessions, masochism. This is all an expression of Pluto leaking out through the ascendant, through the physical self, through the body. Pluto is our desires. It's our, the rotting things within us. It's our resentment. It's our difficulties. It's all of those things, and it's trying to make contact with the ascendant. It's trying to come out. It's almost like these people are possessed by Pluto. And you would think that would be more so, with it being on the ascendant. Oh, no, no. This aspect represents the most powerful connection that Pluto can have with the conscious self. So they think that they are in control. That is not the case. The Pluto acts out, absolutely. And they have to connect with that part of themselves. The ascendant has to connect with that hidden part of themselves if they don't want to have this background puppeteer controlling their conscious lives. So these people think very black and white, and they were trained to think so at a very early age, and they have to accept that life comes in shades of gray. And we learn that as we get older, and we realize that it is not as easy or as simple as our parents told us. Life is very much about negotiating through obstacles, and it is very much about understanding that there's very little actual black and white. Some things are. Most things come in shades of gray. That is a very difficult thing for these people to accept. And once they can make that connection, just have that understanding that it's not either or, it's not good or bad, it's not good or evil. It can be all together, and that can work. They have to accept the things within themselves that they find unacceptable, because in that they bring their power to the ascendant, to their conscious self, and they integrate what previously they have denied, repressed, and it puts them in a position where they can find success, because it's actually very energetically consuming to have this aspect, because they have to do so much hiding from their own selves. So this one, I equate this one to, I have kind of a puppet analogy that I like to use to explain this particular aspect. And so imagine there's a puppet, right? And it has a cord, because it can talk and it can think, and say it's developed some kind of self-consciousness, right? But it has to have a power source. It has to have a cord. So it has a cord coming out the back. It's a really long cord. So the puppet can't really necessarily see that it's connecting to anything. It doesn't even realize it has a cord. So the cord comes back pretty far, and it is connected to a battery pack, right? A big battery. So the puppet thinks and talks and interacts with the world, and that would be the ascendant, and thinks that it is in control. Well, who's really in control? Where's the power coming from? It's coming from the battery in the back. So, say the battery also has a bit of a consciousness, and it likes to fiddle with the puppet, right? Thinks it's fun. It's its nature. So it turns up the power sometimes. Sometimes it turns it down. Sometimes it turns it way up. And the puppet thinks that this is just a function of its own self. So when the puppet can realize or accept the horror, the realization that I'm not in control. It's this thing behind me. I gotta make peace with this thing. This thing is driving me crazy. I didn't even know it. I thought that was me. What am I gonna do? Well, initially people that have this, they don't want to accept that because they haven't realized that it's been going on. Well, the puppet now has to somehow make friends with this dude in back of him that's been messing with him all this time. So you have to make a conscious effort to turn around. The puppet's got to get up there. It's got to walk over. It's got to have the courage to connect with this, to see what's back there. Because Pluto represents our greatest fears and the things that we have buried for a reason. Your Pluto is back there for a reason. You have to confront the things that are scary. You have to confront the reasons why it was too difficult at an early age to accept your own power. That's a scary thing. A lot of times people, when they have this aspect, it requires therapy. It requires the willingness to really get in touch with what it is we were very afraid of or what was damaging at a very early age. A lot of times people, they don't understand that there was something and they will deny it. And when you talk to them, when they have this inconjunction, they'll tell you that their childhoods were fine. Sometimes they'll tell you that they were horrible, but they won't go into it. Or, there will be lapses in memory. It takes some real examination when you have this aspect to accept why it's there and to do the healing associated with it, because you have to bring yourself back into contact with those parts of you that you deemed unacceptable. And there was nothing wrong with it in the first place. It was that time and that place and that situation, and that's where you got that early message, and that has no validity now. And this is such a freeing thing for people when they have inconjunctions, especially with Pluto, because they've been under the impression that this is just the way it is and the way it has to be. And no, that's your attitude. That's simply your earliest opinions that have taken root and are now controlling your future. And so this is one that is actually, when it comes to things to solve, this is not like a moon or a Saturn issue that, it really takes some time to solve, because those are, are ingrained patterns. Pluto actually is ingrained, but Pluto has the effect or the characteristic of wanting to change. It's not like Saturn, who resisted. Pluto wants to change. So when you can really understand what's going on with this particular aspect, it's actually pretty, it's one of the faster, difficult aspects within somebody to be able to fix, because it really involves an acknowledgement, a getting in touch. The Pluto within us is actually really willing to connect with the Ascendant and has been trying to for years. That's why it's been leaking out through the skin, through the words, through the sexuality. It wants to make friends with you. So that puppet that was so afraid to confront the battery in the back because it didn't know what was there or what it was that was controlling it, when it finally gets there and sees what it was, the battery has this warm, fuzzy pink glow around it and is a wonderful, wonderful friend. And there was nothing to be afraid of in the first place. It's like that Dr. Seuss book, What Was I Afraid Of? People that have this in conjunction, you go read that. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com. Yes, I do private consultation. I'll be back with more super cool videos. My camera's just about to run out of battery. And I will see you guys super soon. Bye-bye.